everyone, and welcome back to Fully Playable Games. So on today's video we are going to be doing another repair video, and this video was yeah, I've been really keen to get this video filmed actually, because as soon as I picked up this console and said that I was going to be doing a repair on it, I remember one of the first comments that I saw on the video was whether I was going to be doing a video on it, and yes, 100% I was going to be doing a video. And today's console is going to be the Sega Game Gear. So yeah, we picked this up from John at the boot fair. We got this with the Sega Saturn, which I believe was the last repair video that we done. So yeah, he just basically says it doesn't power on and there's no life from it. So being a Game Gear, it's pretty much guaranteed that there's only one issue with it, and that is going to be the capacitors. So I've got the capacitor kit to hand, and we're going to be tearing the console down, getting all the caps replaced, and yeah, hopefully get it back to life. I am not going to be doing a screen mod on this. I'm actually going to try and get hold of another one to modify. I want to have this one and keep it as original as possible. So yeah, that is going to be today's project. So let's jump over to the desk. We'll get it all, we'll get some batteries in it, get it tested, and then get it teared down and see what we can do with it. So we are all set up on the desk with the Game Gear, and to start off with, let's give it a quick test. So just pulling off the battery compartments, looking in the actual battery compartment itself, everything doesn't look too bad. Well, actually, there's quite a bit of corrosion on that bottom bit. This side looks fairly clean. But yeah, there is some corrosion on this side. So yeah, we're going to have to get that cleaned up. But for now, let me chuck the 10 million batteries in that we need to power this. There we go. I'm not going to put the covers on, but what I am going to do is I've just grabbed solitaire poker off of my shelf, and nothing. So no power light, no power whatsoever. So let me, before we completely disregard, or before we strip it down, should I say, let's try it with off the mains, so the power supply. With these, you can use the same power supply as the Mark 1, or Mark 2 Mega Drive. Yeah, Mega Drive 2 and the Master System. So what I'm doing is I'm using my power supply from our Master System. Plug it straight in. We'll get there in eventually. So it just plugs in, just in the top bit. And let's try and power it on now. Oh, would help if I turned on the power supply. And still nothing. So what we're going to do is we will tear it down, and then we will concentrate on the power board. So get the game cart out. So on these you've got 6 screws and then 1 game bit screw as well. So what we'll do is I will get all the screws out and we'll get it apart and start. Basically we're going to start with the power board. Right, so that is all the screws removed. So all we need to do is then just lift. There you go, just separate the top cover. Obviously we're not going to lift it straight up because there is some cables connected underneath. So you'll see just here, we've got cable here, and then we've got the speaker that's plugged in up here. So I'm actually going to remove them from the top boards for now. There we go. So that gets that free. Oh, I've got a couple of screws that were still left in. I think it's just that one. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this bit off to the side for now, because we're going to work on that in a minute. But for now, I'm going to concentrate on the power board. So we've got 3 capacitors on the power board that I'm going to be swapping out. And I've actually already got the kit for the power board. But what is good with the kit that I bought, and this was just one that I picked up off of eBay, is as well as the capacitors, if I can get into the bag, that is. No, not that way, it's that way. So obviously we've got the 3 capacitors, and then we've got a little diagram to follow as well. So if we look at the board, so we'll see the switches there and the switches there. So it shows us that C5, C11 and C13. And now at the top, the C5 is a 22 farad. Is it ultra farad? Don't know. Not 100% sure on my farads. So 11 is 100 and 13 is 820. So quite hefty little capacitors. So yeah, we've got 820. You can see 820, 100 and 22. So what we'll do is we'll start by removing this board. And let me get my small screwdriver to do this. So on this board, you've got 2 screws. And then we also need to peel back this cover. I want to try and do it where I don't do any damage to the actual cover itself. So basically what this is doing is just stopping things coming in contact with each other. There we go. So quite sticky underneath, but we'll put that off to the top for now. And then actually what's good is it's actually this side of the board that's got the corrosion on it. So it'll be quite good. While we've got this board out, we can also do some cleaning on those contacts. So yeah, as I say, we've got the screw up the top here. So that's 2 screws out. And then we should be able to just pry the board out. So you just be careful with it, because it is connected to the 2 contacts here. There we go. So we'll put the switch off to the side. There we go. So I'll probably give that a bit of a clean up before we put it all back together. But for now, we'll put it off to the side. And then, yeah, so, yeah, the board looks like it could do with a bit of a clean up. There's a bit of gump down the bottom there. I will admit the capacitors don't look too bad, but we're going to get them out regardless. So let me get my soldering iron and everything set up, and then we can get started on, yeah, getting these capacitors out, getting them swapped out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back in to see if we can actually get the board to respond before we carry on and do the capacitors on the main board. So yes, right, so let me get everything set up and then we can get cracking. Okay, so as I said, we're going to start with the 3 capacitors, and then we'll get on to cleaning up the battery contacts. So if I look there, so we've got the small one that's just off at well, 5 o'clock. Once we flip over the board, while we're looking at this, I'll get everything powered on so it's ready to go. So yeah, we've got the capacitor just there, then we've got one directly above the hole, and then right next to that. So if we rotate the board round, so we are looking at these 2 points here, these 2 points here, and then these 2 points here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start, and I forgot to get my solder wire out. I'm going to start by just adding some solder to each of the points, as well as some flux. And then we'll get the desoldering iron out, and we will get those capacitors removed and get them swapped out. There we go. So, and let's clean off my soldering iron. Right, so now we should switch over to the other. Oh no, actually I should be able to do this on this camera. Oh, that's what I was meant to do. Meant to turn that on. So it might be a bit of noise from the fan, but obviously with the sort of stuff that we're going to be doing on this board, I wanted to get one of the proper fans, and I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and just decided it's probably better to start actually using it. So might need to put a bit more solder on those ones. Don't think they've gone too well, actually. Right, let's see what we'll do. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. There you go. First one removed. As long as you take your time. Yep, there we go. So what I'm going to do is just get a bit of solder wick and try and not knock my fan over. There we go. I'm going to turn off the desoldering gun because it's not really going to be needed now. Just clean up the pads. Because what we'll do is we'll have all new solder on that when we put the new capacitors in. Right, so that should be it. So let me just get some IPA and we'll get the board cleaned up before we get it ready to put the new capacitors in. And to be honest, I want to give the board a bit of a clean anyway because we've got a bit of gump down the bottom here as well by the switch. Yeah, it's not overly clean down the bottom here. Okay, so what we'll do now is we will get the capacitors in. So going back to our diagram, So let me zoom this camera out a bit. So as I say, we've got the switch. So if I flip that up that way, so we've got the switch. So we want to be looking for C5. So that is the 22 farad, 35 volts. And if I remember rightly, it is this one. Yep, there we go. 22 farad. And hopefully you can see that. 22 farad. And then we want to be going on the negative, which is, you're looking on the board. We've got these sections that have got the white on. That's the part of the board that's the negative. And I think I'm going to have to use a soldering iron to get these through. Yeah, I think the holes are still not completely clean. So, right, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to get these holes cleaned up so that we can put the capacitors in properly. Okay, so I have got the solder out as best as I can. The top two are completely clear now. The bottom one is still proving to be a bit of a pain. So I think what we'll do is we will do it with the capacitor in hand. So that side, the positive side's going through okay. It's just the negative. There we go. There we go. That is in. That was the better way and quicker way to do it. So just put the legs out like that, and then we'll go back to the sheet. So that, where are we looking? Yeah, so that is the one. That's C5. So we're then going to go C11, which is the one just down the bottom here. That's the 100 farad. So once again, white side is the negative. Pretty sure this will go straight in this one. Yep, there we go. So that one's in. We'll spin the board round. And then last one. Don't think we need the sheet for this one. Seeing as we've got one capacitor left. So, but once again, we'll just make sure that we get it the right way round. Get that into the board. And fold the legs down just to make sure that it stays in while we resolder. So, let's get these all soldered back up. Put some flux on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on both the cameras so you can see what's going on. Turn my fan back on. Ow. That was hot. Right, so what I want to do now is to just go to each of the contacts, make sure there's no bridges or anything like that. Right, so let's have a quick look. So no bridges down there. I wish my screen would stop turning off. Yeah, no bridges there, and then that one's okay as well. So let's get these cut. And following on from last week's video, I have bought some new clippers. Yeah, so There you go. All the bits out of the way as well. We can have another quick look. So I'm just going to run my solder iron over these ones down the bottom here again. So I am a bit nervous about them bridging. Just going to see if I can zoom in a bit more. That's about as much as the camera will do. Yeah, I'm happy that they are not bridging anymore. So that is that bit done. So I turn off that. And then next up, we want to focus on doing a bit of cleaning. So I'm going to start off by giving the power switch a bit of a clean. Because it may be that the capacitors were fine previously and that it was the power switch. Oh. There we go. And let's see if we can address the corrosion on these battery terminals. There we go, that's a better angle. Need to be careful, don't want to rip them off. What I'm going to do is get my pick set out. And then the other most useful tool, which is off to the side here, I haven't actually put it somewhere I can reach it, is an emery board. We won't tell the wife that I stole this out of her makeup bag. So what I would normally do is if they were sort of really badly corroded, I would remove them from the boards. And I probably will still do that, probably do that off camera. But normally I would just remove them from the board. So yeah, I think I am going to have to take these off and get them put into a bit of a vinegar bath just to give them a bit more of a clean. But what we will do first off, let's see if they are actually, if there is continuity between them. So I'm just going to get my multimeter. So yep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we will be getting a connection from the batteries in there. So what we'll do is we'll get it back in the Game Gear. We'll do a test to see. I'm not expecting it to completely start working and everything like that. But what I am hoping is that we can at least get a picture up. So give me 2 seconds. I am going to just put it all back in the Game Gear. And then what we'll do is we will give it a test before we do the capacitors on the rest of the board. Okay, so we are all back together now. So I'm just going to put the batteries back in. And fingers crossed, we'll at least get the power light to come on. So get my game cart. No. So That's a bit of a bust. Oh no. We got some life out of that. So we're getting... Right, so that is on. That's obviously off. So we're getting some life. So that's a good sign. That's better than what we had before. So let's crack on. We'll get it all apart again. So I've not screwed anything on the back together. What we'll do is we will tackle the capacitors on the main board this time. So there's the power board. There's that. And then there's that. So obviously we've got the volume of the board here. I'm going to leave that until very last. I want to actually get the board itself up and running. So I don't think that comes out actually. So we've got a couple capacitors here. Actually, if we zoom in, so you'll see all of these capacitors around here. Not looking in the best of conditions. Yeah, see, all of these ones here are all the ones that we're going to be replacing. So I do have the there you go. I do have the second capacitor kit. So let's get in there because that will have hopefully the same sort of sheet. But there is obviously a lot more capacitors to do on this one. So yeah, quite a few. There we go. We've got the audio board, so I'm not worried about the audio board for now. But this one doesn't have the little diagram that the other for the power board. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go through. And so we've got 6.8, 100, R47, R47. So actually, does this correspond to anything? PCB values. Okay, right. Give me a minute. I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a board diagram and actually get everything marked up so I know which capacitors are going where before we start pulling things off the board. Okay, so I am being a complete donut because if I look here, it actually tells me the values on the motherboard. So if we look here, so right here we've got C49, 22 farad, 6.3 volts. And then if we look at, what was it, 49? So we've got 49, 22, 6.3, and then it's actually supplied with a 22 10 volt. But that is basically what we've got to do. So what we are going to do is, let me zoom out a bit. And I'm just going to get started by removing the board. Where have I just put my screwdriver? Over there. So we've got a couple of screws to remove. One down the bottom here. Oh, would help if I was on camera to show you what one down the bottom here I was talking about. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and probably 6 and 7, probably 8 and 9. So I'm going to go through just removing screws now until the board comes free. Okay, so there we go. So it is just basically the screws on the board. The screws that are on the basically reflector for the bulb, they stay on because they actually screw through the board into the display. So I've loosened the board up. So just get it around this cable for the speaker. And there we go, we're free. So it doesn't look too bad, that side of the board. Might give it a bit of a clean up here. But for now, I'm going to move that off to the side. And I'm actually going to bring back in my soldering stand. Or my board stand, sorry. Okay, so here we are. We've got the board on the stand. And yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just trying to clean up as much off the board as we can, because one of the big things with doing this capacitor swap is that the failed capacitors absolutely stink when you're trying to desolder them. So hopefully by giving the board a bit of a clean ahead of time, might be able to reduce some of that. Don't know, but yeah, gonna try what I can. And then where have I put my pliers? They are just there. So see, as well as being on the board, they're also glued onto the board slightly as well. So what you do is just go through, just give them a really gentle wiggle until you hear it snap. I'll try and get it on one of the bigger ones. There we go. That way, as you're unsoldering them, you're not then fighting against the actual capacitor as well, or the adhesive that's holding the capacitor on. So the one that I am actually most concerned with is this one at the back here. So let's see. Yeah, it's not looking like a nice one, that one up the back there. Because obviously it's right next to the connector, and the connector can't be removed. Yeah, I can't even pull the sleeve off. So let's see if I can get the soldering iron in and get it loosened up a bit. So I am going to put the fan on. So I'll try and just put a bit of solder on the tip of the soldering iron. Just see if we can... There you go. So the other side's come off. Oh, we've got that one. There we go. So we've got that first one off. Luckily, because, say, I was a bit worried about that because it is very close to that connector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the board now, get all of the other capacitors removed. And as I say, I have got the diagram there to work from. And what I have noticed I've just done, I've just melted... I've just melted the volume lever. Didn't realise the soldering iron was leaning up against it. So, okay, not for today, but I will come back in. As long as it all works afterwards, I will come back in after and get it all, get it swapped out. So what I'm going to do is just go through the board, lift up all the capacitors, and then I'm going to go through and remove them from the board. So I will see you in just a minute. Okay, so that is all of the dead capacitors removed, or all the old capacitors removed. So what I'm going to do is start off with, let's give the board a thorough clean. Get rid of all the old gumph. What we're going to then do is remove the old solder. That bit of a clean as well while we're here. And then I'm going to remove the solder, the remaining solder from the pads before we put the new capacitors on. Yeah, that's looking all right. Yep. So that one's going to be the challenge for me, is to actually get in there without damaging that connector as well. I think with that one, I'm just going to have to re-tin the pads. See, this time, try and do it without destroying the volume slider anymore. So I'll leave that like that. It's not the cleanest. It's not the way I like to do it. But with everything that's around it, I want to try and just be as careful as I can. So probably what I'm going to do is going to do that one, make that one the first one that we tackle. Just to get it done and dusted. So let's finish cleaning off this old solder. Okay, so that is about it. I'm quite happy with it. 0 torn pads, which is good. So it should be relatively straightforward to get everything back on the board. So what we're going to do is, as I say, we're going to start off with C31 at the top. So that is a 100 farad 6.3 volts. We're going to be swapping it out for a 100 farad 6 volts. So let me see if I can find it in the pile that we've got. 100 farad 6.5 volts, quantity 5. Okay, so not. Yeah, no, it is. So right, so the labels on here are the original labels. And then if I actually look, this is a put that there, and hopefully I'll be able to zoom in the edit. So it is a 100 farads 10 volt. So quite good. I've got a bit of play with this one as well. So what I am going to do is, to start with, I'm just going to try and shape the legs a bit. So if I have it like that, and fold the legs like that, use the pliers. Sorry. Have it like that. So the top one is positive on this. So what I'm going to do is bend it like that. Hopefully this will then keep it on the board in a pretty much similar spot as the old ones. So what I'm going to do is just trim them both off. So I've just got to remember that the bottom one is the negative. So that will sit in like that, which should be good enough. And just straighten it up a bit. So that is pretty much what I'm thinking of. There we go, spot on. So let me grab my tweezers. Hopefully it'll be a bit easier with tweezers to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on Okay, my phone has just shut off. So I think the battery's run out. So let me quickly get that on charge. Just means that we'll have to stick with the overhead camera for now, which suits me because it's probably going to be the better way to do this. Right, so we're starting off with one at the top here. And I'm just going to try and get the soldering iron in there. There we go. So, oh, you didn't see any of that, sorry. Right, so there's the first leg on. So now, just need to get the top one on. So, let's get a bit more solder. And just going to angle it a bit. There we go. Doesn't look like the tidiest job, but it is on. So fingers crossed that one's all right. Okay, so next one that we're going to tackle is going to be C49, which if we go back to the sheet, I don't know, C49 is 22, 6.3, so it's 22, 10 volt. Where have we got? I think I've seen that. Yep, there we go. It's the only one of those that we've got. And that one, yeah, I think that is 2210. And actually, looking at it, it is a 16 volt on here. Is that the right one? Let's get it out and have a look. So it's saying 22.6 on the bag. Obviously, the voltage doesn't really matter. It is just the capacitance. So yeah, 22 on 16. So that will be that one, and that will go just there. So just like before, gonna just shape the legs a bit. That's looking about right. So what I'm going to do now is going to get that soldered on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on and get all of the rest put on the board before we... and then, yeah, we'll get it all back in and get it tested. So give me 2 minutes to get all this done, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so that is all of the capacitors finally in, and wow. Definitely bit off a bit more that I can chew on this. Some of the capacitors, like this one, C45, it was just too big to fit in the holes. I've had to put it off to the side. I'm actually quite worried that now that's in that place, it won't actually fit in the case. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it back in the case now. Unhook it from the board. And yeah, so I'm going to put it back in the case. And see if that will now power on now that all of those capacitors are changed. Fingers crossed it is, because it was a lot of work. I think so far I've been at this has probably taken me about an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah, definitely need to work on my soldering a lot more. Okay, so there we go. We've got the screws all back in. The board's now properly in. So let's see if we can marry these two up without too much trouble. As I say, I just got a feeling that these couple of capacitors down here are probably not going to let the case shut. But I'll put everything back in. Not too bad, but yeah, they are stopping the case from shutting, so I'm going to have to look at that. But first off, let's get some batteries in and see if we can get any life out of this at all. And get the game cart. Okay, fingers crossed. Ha ha ha! Brilliant. Not exactly as I want it to be. So, yeah, it's not perfect. I don't know. There you go. Just let me turn the light out. See if it'll come up. So, there we go. It isn't perfect. I don't know whether that is a broken screen. And go. It's definitely doing something. But, yeah, not as I expect it to be. So, I'll tell you what, actually, before we do anything more, let me, first off, give the cart a clean. Because I don't think I've done that. I think this was one of the loose carts that I got from the market. So, it probably does need a bit of a clean. Nope. Okay, right. Well, let's get back into it. So what I'm going to do is 12:30 at night. So I am going to knock it on the head for tonight. But I am going to pick it up tomorrow once I get home from work. And yeah, we will crack on. See if we can work out. But we have got a whole ton further. If you think when we started, there was nothing happening with this at all. Now, we have got it to come to life. I think what I might do is tomorrow, I'll get the capacitors changed out on the soundboard. So we can see if we're actually getting sound. And then we can work out whether it's what's going on with the video. So, yes. So I will see you tomorrow. And yeah, hopefully we can get it all going once we get back to it. Okay, so it has been a couple of days actually since I filmed the last part of the video. And yeah, so been doing a bit of research into the Game Gear, and it's potentially one of two different things. It is either going to be that the capacitor replacement hasn't gone right, or it is, which is more than likely, that the screen is faulty. So yes, it's a bit of a downer, but what I am going to do is I am not going to leave it there.
because obviously if we look at the sides, we'll see I've literally put the screws together just to hold it together, but I've not done it overly tight. Reason for that is I have actually ordered a new capacitor kit for this, and it's one that I found online. The difference with it is, instead of it being the electrolytic capacitors, it is the, I can never remember what they're called, but the little small ones that you'll see on circuit boards. And yeah, those are going to fit in here a lot better. It means that the unit's going to close properly. And I'll be honest, we'll be able to get them in a lot better. I think I'm 50-50 as to whether the capacitors that I've put in are soldered on properly. So yeah, I am going to be redoing this. So I am going to be doing a revisit video on this in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, I'm just waiting for them to be delivered. But yeah, I think for today, I am going to wave the white flag on the Game Gear. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to mark it as not repaired, which is a bit gutting, considering, especially it's more so because it's my second repair video and I've already failed. But as I say, we are going to be revisiting this. I am going to be putting the new capacitors in once they arrive. And yeah, fingers crossed, it is just the fact that the electrolytic capacitors just haven't gone in right. But yeah, we'll see that in the next video. So with that said, I am going to call it a day on today's video there. But if you did enjoy the video, not that we succeeded, but look, if you enjoyed seeing me fail at repairing the Game Gear, then don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're not already, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for more videos just like this. And yeah, with that said, thank you so much for watching today. Really hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye.